All right, quick demo on how to do our room outline and then to add some furniture to it. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can either just start by going from corner to corner of your sketchbook. You might need a longer ruler for this. So I'm just going to make a cross, like a big X in my sketchbook. And this will tell me where I want to put my vanishing point and where I want to draw my back wall. So this is kind of like the easy way to make, an outline for where you're going to have your room. So big X, that lets me know that this is where my vanishing point is going to be. I'm going to draw my horizon line right through there. So I'm going to just label these so that you can see that. You don't have to label them in your drawing if you don't want, as long as you know what's what. So horizon line, vanishing point, and these are going to be our top, like the lines of our ceiling. These will be the lines of our floor, and now we have to pick where we want our back wall to be. And that will kind of be based on where these diagonal lines are. So I'm going to figure out, about how wide. And if you make this box tiny, for instance, don't do it like this, but if you did, that means that this is like one really, really long hallway. Sorry, I'm going to try and get it to focus here. Will it? Yeah. I'm just going to keep it from like continually refocusing. There we go. Okay. So if you did this box tiny, that's like making this one super long hallway. If you make this box huge, that makes your room a lot shallower. So the size of this box determines, the depth of your room. So I would just kind of go something in the middle. And I'm just going to say, like, I want mine to be about that big. So we've got this cross, we've got this horizontal line going through it, and now we're just going to pick somewhere along one of those diagonal lines to start. From that point, like I made my point right here, it's about, a third of the way down that line. From that point, I'm just going to drop down a perfectly vertical line, and I'm going to, you can do this a couple ways. You can either do it by eye if you think you can just match up that line to make a point at the same distance on this other diagonal, or you can measure to the vanishing point and that dot. So for mine, it's almost exactly 2 inches. So then I know I need to go almost exactly 2 inches up this line as well. Was mine under or over? It was like, okay, so it's like 1/16 over. I should have just done exactly 2 inches, but hey. So if you can see what I'm doing, and I'm monitoring the chat too if you have questions, but I went 2 inches up this line to drop that vertical down. So I'm measuring the same distance up this line, 2 inches, and then I'm going to drop another vertical. So these are going to be the side walls of our room. And be careful to make sure that they're really vertical and you're not tilting them or anything. So if we did this right, these lines should match up perfectly at the bottom, and they do. So now I'm just going to connect the dots to finish off this room at both the bottom. I think I tilted that a little bit. The bottom and the top. And that should match up to those points you drew. So what we're looking for in our outline is we want to have a box in the background, a vanishing point in the center, and we want that line to go through all 4 corners of our room. Because what a lot of people were turning in were some variation of this, but maybe the lines went off like that, or something was a little bit off. And it really should be pretty exact if you're using linear perspective correctly, because linear perspective is the technique that says that these lines, the corners of the floor and ceiling in your room, will go to that vanishing point. So you really can't be off about this, because then it's not really using the technique. So I'm going to darken these lines probably so that you can just see them stand out a little bit before we make our next move here. So this is what I want folks to turn in for the outline. So if you want to snap a picture of it as is, if you've done this along with us, that's what you can turn in for the outline, because I just wanted to make sure that the structure of your room was looking good. And if anyone's doing 2-point perspective and needs help with that, you can stick around and I'm happy to demo that with you later as well. For the outline that you turn in, I do want to see these lines going to the center because that helps me know that you're using the technique correctly. But if it helps you to kind of darken things and just leave those lines going to the vanishing point on your back wall a little lighter, that's fine. If it helps you to kind of focus on what is going to be a permanent part of your room and what's just like a guideline. And check in with me real quickly. Are we doing okay, folks? Because I know we don't have our cameras on or anything. We're probably just busy drawing or watching, but give me a quick roll call in the chat if you're still here and hanging in and doing well, so that I know that we're all still out there. Thank you, Grace. Thanks, Hayden. Okay, cool. Can you have the Pear Deck link again? Accidentally clicked out. You can. So right now, though, just make sure, Tate, that we are... right now, we should just be looking at the Google Meet window because that's where I'm demoing, and then we'll get back to Pear Deck in just a second. But thanks, everybody, for letting me know we're still out there in the chat. Okay, so like I said, this was our outline. I might even take a quick picture of this too, just to have to reference for you all. So if you are doing something like this, that's all you got to do for your outline. So hopefully we've been able to do that together and you're feeling good about that. You can turn those in whenever, but I want to show you some really quick pointers on our next steps because this is the next part of our room drawing. And someone in their feedback said that they're just having a hard time picturing or visualizing the room or seeing it in their head to be able to get started, which is totally understandable because this is kind of an abstract thing that we're having to create out of nothing. So this is going to be your back wall in your room. These are the side walls, and this is the ceiling. This is the floor. So I'm going to start by just maybe adding a quick like texture to the floor so that you can get a feel for, you know, how this space is actually working. So I'm going to start like maybe I'm going to put floorboards in, and I'm going to put a floorboard every like ½ inch maybe. So I'm going to start that by just making little marks every ½ inch on the corner where my floor meets my back wall. And to add that detail, like if I'm going to have wood floors or anything, I'm going to draw a line from the vanishing point through that little hatch mark and down. Because again, this is the technique that tells us how things are going to be spaced to make them look realistic. So I'm just going through each of those marks to make my floorboards. And you can see next time you go into a room with, you know, planks or wood flooring or lines in the floor, stand there and look and watch, and you'll see this effect, you know, where it looks like they're all going to the same point in the distance. That's what this formula linear perspective is based on. So these are going to be my floorboards. I might, you know, make some little cross sections here. There's a formula for this part too, how to decide like where things cut off, but it gets really mathy and I'm not going to burden you with that right now. So just know that as things get off into the distance, the lines become closer together. You know, so these planks should hopefully be bigger than the ones in the distance. But like I said, it can get kind of complicated at that point, so I don't want to stress anybody out with that math. You can go really technical with this, which if you're a technical person is fun. If you're not, can be overwhelming. So that just gives us a little bit of information about the floor of this room. Let's say we want to add like a window, a door, and then we'll do one piece of furniture, and then I'll get you out of here because hopefully you'll be able to apply these techniques. So if we want to do a window, I'm going to say I want like a big window in my back wall. Anything on this back wall is just going to be a square or flat, just like the back wall is itself. So nothing's going to have to worry about going to the vanishing point on this back wall because we're looking straight at it. It's not going off into the distance. So if I want to have a big giant, you know, window, all I have to do is outline that window. And it's not any more complicated than that. So my back wall, let's say that's my window. I want to have just like a big glass space where I can see out, and I'm going to have fun, like drawing the yard in the background of my dream space here, but that's all I need for my window. Maybe it has 3 panels, so I'm going to outline the panels. There we go. And if these lines start to get confusing for you, you can lighten some up, especially on, this back wall. We don't really need to see these lines once you've drawn them. They're not going to be like a permanent part of your drawing, so you can erase those if it helps, because it can start to get confusing with a bunch of lines. So now we can see, okay, we have flooring. I have a back window. I don't recommend, I don't want you to copy mine because I want this to be your dream room, not mine, but I'm showing you anything on this back wall can just be flat. Now, if we go to add something on these side walls, this is when they do have to start going to that vanishing point again, because these side walls are going off into the distance, if you can start to visualize this. So I'm going to need a door to get into my room. I'm going to say, let's put the door, I'm going to put my door kind of closer to me. One little side note is this horizon line is actually eye level of a person. So if I drew, I know this is like a very not quite stick figure, it's like a sausage figure, but I'm just drawing it quickly so you can see. The horizon line is always supposed to be at eye level to someone who's in this room. So if I'm drawing a person here, this is going to be their eye level, and they're probably not going to be this is like the weirdest figure I've ever drawn. So this is their eye level, and that's about where they would be standing on the floor. Just to give you some sense of scale. Don't mind my scary person here. So I'm going to have to make a doorway that's at least as tall as them. So if this helps you to get a sense of like the space and how tall to make your furniture, how big to make your furniture, you can always put a little person, put their eyes at the horizon line, and then drop their feet down to the ground at that point. So if I do another one here, I'm going to drop them down just until they hit, the floor. Like, what part of the floor would they be on? They'd be standing about there. So that this might help you get a feeling for how big furniture and things need to be. So I'm going to put my doorway about here. I know I'm going to need my doorway to be at least above their head. So I don't know, doorways are usually 1.5 feet or so above our heads. So you can just put this anywhere on the wall randomly that you want. You don't have to draw the person, but if if you want it to be really accurate, you can put a little stick figure in there just to help you get a sense of the space. So I've figured out I want my doorway to be about that tall above this person's head. So I just did a mark there, just a dot. You don't have to do any lines yet. And I'm going to take that dot back to the vanishing point. So from there, I'm going to match my ruler up to the vanishing point and draw a light line all the way to the center. This tells me the top of my doorway. So I've got to figure out where I want to cut my door off. I'm going to say my door begins off the page. So my door really starts over here, but I'm going to cut my door off about there. So to cut it off, all I have to do is draw a perfectly vertical line. So I'm just going straight down from that dot that I drew until I hit the corner. So this is really important too, in figuring out where in this space your furniture will come to. So doorway is on the wall. You're not going to stop it above. You're not going to stop it down into the floor. It has to stop at that corner, just like a door in any wall in your room would stop. So I'm going to add a little detail around the doorway quickly. And if I go up above that line, well, I need to draw a new line to the vanishing point to tell me where the top of that molding for the door goes. So just like that. And now I know, where my molding is going to be. Let's say I want to make this wall, though, really thick. So I'm going to show you, and this will apply to windows too. Let's say this is my molding or the border for my doorway, but this wall here has to have a thickness. So if this confuses anyone, you can just forget this part, but I want to at least show you. I'm going to go just straight in from this corner, and that's giving me the thickness of this wall. So then if I drop down And like I said, if this is confusing, don't worry too much about this, but it will help if you want to have things that are, really dimensional, like a window or something. Oh, and I'm going to have to cut through this person. Sorry, little person. So I did this straight down because it's just, the flat part of this wall. But for this corner, I'm also going to the vanishing point. So basically, no matter what you put in here, and again, if this is worrisome or confusing, like this might be where your door hinges are. So if that helps, maybe there's a door in there. Anything that you put in this room, it's either going to be vertical, horizontal, or going to that vanishing point. Those are the only 3 options you have. So if you get confused, just stop and think about that. Is this line going to be something that's facing me flat on, like the back wall or the side of a bed, or is it something that goes off into the distance, like the side of a desk, which I'll show you. We're going to add like maybe a window over here, and then we'll do a desk or something simple, maybe a bed, and then I'll let you go just because I want to show you some of the steps to getting things added. So quickly to do a window, I want a big window here. I'm just going to put a random point where I want the corner of my window to be. I'm going to draw to the vanishing point. That's going to be the top of my window. I've got to decide how tall I want my window. So I'm going to take this and drop it down. I maybe only want my window to go that far down into the room. So I've got this point. I'm going to also draw that to the vanishing point, because remember, I only have the option of perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal, which we're not using for this window yet. There's nothing in here that's perfectly horizontal just yet, but vertical for the front and back edges of the window, because those just cut the window off in space. But the top and bottom of the window will go to the vanishing point, because these are the parts of the window that are on, the length of that wall that goes off into the distance. So I have to figure out where I want to cut my window off closer towards me and drop a vertical line, say about there. And this is my window. And then I can erase the guidelines. We still doing okay, folks? Hopefully, is this helpful, or is this kind of like redundant? Like, oh, I already knew this stuff. Why am I making you watch it? I just want to help if anyone's struggling with this, because it is a tough project, especially for a first project, but I have a feeling y'all can do it. If I'm going to put some little lines in my window, again, these are just going to be perfectly vertical, but any line going the length of that wall that goes off into the distance, I'm going to have to make sure that it goes to the vanishing point. So it'll just go like that. To add a little piece of furniture, like maybe we'll do a bed, just real quick. I'm going to put my bed underneath this window. So furniture can be kind of tricky figuring out like where do I start. I would say start with the flat side of your furniture that's facing us, and then worry about bringing it off into the distance. So I'm going to figure out where the side of my bed goes. If I want to line it up with this window, because I'm, particular like that, I'm going to just drop a thin, like a light line down so that I can see where the corner of this window would hit the ground, where the floor meets the wall. So that's the line right under the window. And I'm going to use this to kind of start where my bed is. So I'm going to just draw the corner of my bed and have it be like a low bed. So this is going to be the corner right here. And now I've got to bring my bed out into the room to figure out how long it's going to be, how far out into the room it's going to come. So I'm going to just draw a horizontal line, because remember our options are vertical, horizontal, or off to the vanishing point. If I'm just drawing the corner of my bed, I'm just worrying about the flat parts right now. So I'm just drawing kind of like a rectangle in this space. However, let's see. So this all is going to have to be perfectly vertical. So don't worry about this line going to the vanishing point, because we're still just talking about the flat side of the bed. It's kind of a tall bed. So I'm going to make my mattress like here. So again, I'm not worrying about anything going off into the distance yet. I'm just drawing the side of it, and then I'm going to worry about carrying these back to the vanishing point. I'm also going to kind of measure how tall this person is here because they're standing about where the bed's going to be. I realize my bed, so let's see if this is how tall the person is, and I put them laying in the bed. The bed is like 3 feet longer than it has to be. So I'm going to shorten that up so it actually fits them better. This is why we do rough drafts. And I promise we're getting close, so thanks for sticking in there, folks. I just want this to be helpful for you. Okay, so this is going to be the mattress. This is the side of the mattress. These are like the legs of the bed. So I have some storage space underneath. I'm also realizing this is kind of a tall bed, but hey, what can you do? And I'm going to give myself a little backboard here, just a short one. I'm going to draw that up. So now that we have the side of the bed looking at us, like if a person were laying on it, it would be like this. Now we have to take these lines to the distance. So I'm going to just start corner to corner, going through each corner and drawing them to the vanishing point. So like this, like this. Here's another corner to the vanishing point and to the vanishing point. So that tells us, you know, how the mattress is going to look, how the headboard is going to look, the corner of the bed, how it's all going to look going off into the distance. Now we just have to cut it off where we want it to stop. So if I want my bed to only be like half the width of my window, I'm going to, you know, maybe use this line to drop it down. And I know this is starting to get confusing because we have a lot of lines, so don't worry, we'll start to erase some as we don't need them anymore. Like for instance, if you don't need that, whatever, if that helps you. Okay, so I've got my headboard. This is going to be, you know, where my pillows go or whatever on my bed. And these guys even would go to the vanishing point, so I should probably be accurate. Okay, so if I figured out where I want to drop down my bed, how wide I want to make it, this is going to be the line that I base, you know, cutting off my bed here. So I'm going to take this and just go perfectly horizontal. So this line, if I can draw it in, I'll draw it in blue so you can see what it's parallel to, is the line like this, but just further off into the distance. We still doing okay, folks? Okay, so this is the beginning of my mattress. This is the end. And same with my headboard here. So I'm going to cut off the edge of my mattress in this corner. This is where the back line of my mattress stops according to this corner and it going to the vanishing point. So this is the line I have to drop straight down to cut off that back corner of my bed. And it's going to start to look a little bit extreme, but as long as you're following the formula, it's going to be right. So kind of trust your lines here. This corner, I forgot to draw to the vanishing point. This is where it looks extreme because it's getting kind of close underneath the vanishing point. So that's why we only see a little sliver of the bed here. But don't worry, like I said, as long as you're following the rules of linear perspective, it might look a little extreme, but it'll be right. Okay, so just to show you really quickly, if I make this leg bigger, I just want to show you how to do things like table legs and legs on beds and stuff. So this is like the flat side of the bed frame that we see, the flat leg, but you know, when you have a leg to a table, it's got, you know, 3 dimensions. It's not just like a flat table leg. So we have to do this part. I'm going to take the corner of that leg of the bed, go to the vanishing point. I don't have to draw the line all the way because I know it's not going to be that long, but I know that line goes to the vanishing point, and I just have to figure out how thick I want the leg for my bed to be and then draw that straight up. So that's the part that goes off into the distance. This is the part facing me. And that's how you do things like table legs, desk legs, you know, legs for your bedpost. I'm going to do the same thing here. So this is going to be a little thicker. And you won't see much of the other side of this one because, again, it's so extreme and it's going to the vanishing point. It's going to start to get kind of crowded in there. So if I had given myself more space, it'd be easier to see. But the same thing would apply. So you draw the flat face of the leg, then you take the corners, go to the vanishing point, and decide where you cut them off vertically in the space that's available. So I know that's hard to see, but that's kind of another leg of the bed there. If you want to add things like pillows, you can kind of freehand those because they're not super, you know, they're not like cubes or squares or anything. They're kind of lumpy, but you can have fun with that. If you're doing, you know, like a blanket on the bed, that also kind of follows linear perspective because it is draped over the bed itself. So I did the top line of my blanket leading to the vanishing point. I'm going to drop this straight down. I'm going to do some like ruffles. And then I can erase this line because we wouldn't see that through the blanket. Let's see. Last thing I want to do just quickly, I'll do something on the ceiling and then hopefully you can kind of apply this idea. So start with the side of something and then draw it to the vanishing point. Let's say I want to do like a round light on the ceiling though. I'm going to just pick, you know, if I kind of want it to be like that big, I'm still going to use linear perspective to give me a sense of how big it should be and kind of what space it should fill. So I'm doing 2 lines from the vanishing point, drawing a line over here, and I'm starting out by just drawing a square that circle is going to fit in. And then you can make an X across the center of it. That gives you the center of your circle. From there, you can kind of just use this as a guide to help you fill out. And this one, you kind of have to be, you know, sketchy with it and do a couple lines and carve in because drawing circles in linear perspective can be tough. But that will give you a sense of like how to make a circle fit in linear perspective, like a square space. This is also how you might do like a ceiling fan. In case that helps. And then you can erase these lines if you want. Probably should have done one more blade in there. It's weird to just have 4, but anyway. So there's some really rough little ideas of like how you could add, you know, features like doors, windows to your back wall, windows to your side wall, a little piece of furniture, something to the ceiling. I know that this is kind of like a tough thing to learn if this is your first time, and I'm hoping that I can give you support and direction to get through it successfully, even if it is your first time doing linear perspective. So if there's anything I forgot, feel free to stick around and I will demo whatever you want, but I'm going to stop the recording for now.